So in this presentation, I'm providing you a complete guide to recruiting your employees in Singapore. Now this is meant for small and medium enterprises which are typically new company registrations in Singapore, and they normally need some guidance and advice on this matter. So let's move ahead, and the agenda today is how to get employees, issuing KET called as a key employment terms or contract, your responsibility about obtaining employee details, payroll obligations, CPF obligations, IRAS submissions that are required to be done, non-discrimination duty, local versus foreigner as employees, levies and other contributions, tax clearance for foreign employees, and I will also handle some frequently asked questions. Now, once you have incorporated your company, the first question then is how to get the employees. Very soon you will feel the need to have at least one sales staff or maybe one delivery staff, and a search for the employee begins. Now there are three primary routes. The first is you can engage a recruitment consultant. There are many recruitment consultants who work in Singapore, and if you do Google search, you will find many of them advertising their services. If you contact any of these recruitment consultants, in general, they will ask anywhere from 20% to 33% of annual salary to be their commission for placement. However, you don't need to really agree to that. And if you tell them that you are not interested, then after few days, they will offer you a reduced percentage of commission, which will be around 8 to 10%. The general industry norm is 1 month salary as a commission for employees who are below 7,000 Singapore dollars salary, and above 7,000 it generally is 1.5 month, and if it is a very top level senior employee then it can be quite high also. But considering that you are getting an employee for a new company, this is what a range that you should normally target for. Now 1 month salary is also quite a good amount of money, so you may want to do it yourself. For example, I have seen people doing it direct posting on indeed.com. Some people advertise on LinkedIn, some people advertise on JobsDB. Typical posting cost for these advertisements will be around 150 to 200 Singapore dollars. And compared to the 1 month salary as a commission, this is substantially low. So you are very well allowed to explore this. And the third option obviously is from referrals and your previous colleagues who might be interested in joining your company. Now, if you decide to do it yourself, please ensure two things: that when you post the advertisement, there are no discriminatory words in it. So you are not preferring foreigners over local, or you are not writing something like a specific language skills are required when the job really does not demand so. Obviously, if job requires a specific thing, then you can mention that, but generally make a practice to mention the reason why you are asking that. Also, do not advertise based on race or sex or any other kind of preferences of the people. So once you have done this activity, the next will be signing the offer letter. So it is also called as KET. KET stands for Key Employment Terms. So according to the Ministry of Manpower regulations, for every employment contract, you are required to issue a KET. So I'm going to show you KET as per the MOM regulations. So this is a recommended KET by Ministry of Manpower, and it basically covers typically the things those are mentioned in the employment contract. But this is more of a structured and a point basis. So company name, what is the job title, whether it is a full-time, part-time, employee name, place of work, duration of employment, working hours, salary details, any allowances, types of leave, length of probation, start date, end date, and so on. So while the Ministry of Manpower KET worksheet is quite good, I don't really think it is appropriate to be used with normal employees. So if you are recruiting normal employees, you are better off having a proper offer letter which covers all this KET. So there are some offer letters available on Ministry of Manpower website, but I feel that those are also not quite good in the sense they are very limited in scope. So we provide sample offer letter as a service, and you can explore if you are interested in that. So it is something like a 14 pages document which is fully compliant with Singapore regulations. And there are other clauses like data protection and non-disclosure and so on. Now, in addition to KET, you may also need to get some additional declarations from your prospective employees. For example, You might be using a specific software on your employee's computer to track what they are doing. In that circumstances, it is a better idea to get that acceptance from them. So you will need to tell them that we use this kind of software to track what you do on your computer and you are agreeable to it. So subsequently, if any issues come, you will have a proper protection. Now, once the offer letter is signed, the next step is when the employee joins, and you need to have certain employee details with you. And I am actually surprised that majority of companies which are kind of new and recruiting first employees, first 2 or 3 employees, they often miss all these details. So these details that you need to collect are as follows. First is copies of identity document of the employees. Secondly, educational certificate copies of the employees. The next thing is whether you need medical tests of the employee. It will depend upon whether your company has this policy or not. If your employee is going to work in the field or he needs some kind of strength, maybe he is handling with heavy goods or physical fitness is necessary, then you are obviously required to get this done. But in some other cases also, I have seen companies doing this, especially when they are providing a group insurance policy and so on. You may want to carry out the background checks on your employees, and you may also want to carry out the reference checks. So the first two, which I have shown in yellow color, are absolutely must. Other three I will say are optional, but if you are recruiting a person who is at a higher level, like a director level or plus, then I will suggest carrying out at least a background check and reference check. For background checks, there are many companies available who provide this as a service. So you can do Google search, employee background check in Singapore, and you will definitely find few of them. So conduct all these activities and keep all these details in a scanned format in one of the secured folder on your computer. Now the employee has joined your organization and you need to maintain the proper payroll records. This is the company's responsibility. So I have already created a video on implementing a payroll system. So I will not go through significant details. But in general, what your responsibilities are on this area are as follows. You must pay salary on time to the employee. You need to provide itemized payslip to every employee. You need to keep record of payroll and salary slips for at least 2 years. You need to make proper salary adjustments. So if employee has work only for half the month, then you need to carry out proportionate salary adjustment, and those needs to be as per the formula given by the Ministry of Manpower Singapore. Every month you need to provide CPF submission. So you will have to log into CPF website and declare the details of deductions done on account of an employee. Provide employee's IRAT, that is the annual salary certificate, and submit this IRAT details to IRAS so that IRAS can automatically calculate the tax due from those employees. You will also need to do the monthly CPF submission, and generally this is done on CPF website where you need to log in using your corporate pass. And then on a screen like this, you specify the CPF account, name of the employee, and the wages that you have paid for that month. If you have many employees, like more than 10 or 20, you can actually upload a file also. So this is one of the responsibility for you to carry out. And then another responsibility is annually you need to submit IRS details for each employee to IRAS, that is the Inland Revenue Authority of Singapore, and also issue a IRAT, that is a salary certificate, annual salary summary to every employee. So this form IRAT looks like this, and this is the basis of charging the tax to the employees. So all these things can be done if you have a proper payroll system. Otherwise, you can obviously use some payroll service provider who will do all these activities on your behalf. Now, there is one more point I want to highlight at this stage, that during the employment, if you find any problem with employees, then you need to document those problems properly. So there are many issues. Some employees have discipline issues. They don't come on time. They leave office early. They take long lunch breaks. Some employees are indiscriminate in leave taking. They remain away from work without any notification. Their leaves are over. Still they are taking leaves. Sometimes some employees are always on WhatsApp or personal mobile devices and are not attending to the work. So there can be anything like this. And the recommended way is that you should give them a warning or notice at that time itself. So when you notice this behavior, that time you need to take this action. When you speak to them, you don't need to be argumentative, but give a written notice and keep an acknowledgement with you. So ask them to sign that notice as they have received it and keep that acknowledgement with you. So in case subsequently you have to take any disciplinary actions, you will have the necessary data to back it up. So if that matter goes to Ministry of Manpower or the employee makes any complaint, you can show Ministry of Manpower officers that in past this and this has happened and this is the proof I have given the notice to the employee. It is your duty to be non-discriminating in recruitment and employment practices in Singapore. So one thing you have to note is Singapore has a high percentage of foreigners staying here and working here. So obviously this is a bit of a kind of a hot issue between local versus foreigners, and therefore you need to be sensitive in that angle. And during the recruitment or during the continuation of employment, you should not be discriminative to either of the parties. So it should not happen that you are discriminating against local employees, because local employees are logically to be preferred over foreigners because they are from this country. So obviously you have to be a bit careful here. Now the next point is about local versus foreigner as an employee. So what happens is, as government has suggested, where possible you should select the local person to act as an employee in your organization. Unfortunately, it is not going to be always possible. There are certain skills where there are no local people to work in your organization. For example, if you want to develop an IT app using Ruby on the Rails or maybe using Python, I'm sure there will be few people in Singapore, but the chances that you will get somebody to work for your organization and he will be free and ready to join your organization may be low. So in that circumstances, you can obviously recruit a person from overseas location. So sometimes getting a foreigner employee is necessary. But what I suggest in that circumstances is, first you advertise job on mycareerfutures.sg, which is a Singapore government website. So if you are getting an employee on employment pass, then advertising on this job board is mandatory. If your company is very small in size, like less than 10 employees, then it is not mandatory. But generally, it is a good practice to advertise so that when you file application for employment pass, you don't have to really go for justification, and Ministry of Manpower officers can readily check whether the job was advertised and what was the response. And then one more thing that you need to ensure is that your employees are covered by the proper visa. And if they are coming to Singapore with their family members, that is dependent, then their dependent pass is also properly sponsored. Now, many a times there are levies applicable for foreign workers. So, employment pass is not subject to levies, but in case of foreign workers and S pass holders, they are subject to levy. And this levy you will have to pay to government treasury. So, the concept of levy is like this. So you pay some X $1,000 salary to this worker or a pass holder. In addition to that, few $100 needs to be paid to Singapore government, Ministry of Manpower, because you are bringing this person in Singapore. So it is a monthly levy, and this needs to be paid to the MOM. So ensure that you have proper setup in place to pay these levies automatically. Generally, this is paid by gyro, and the deduction happens automatically. But you need to ensure that your bank account has proper balance and your quotas and everything are properly in place. And the last thing that you need to ensure in case of foreign workers is, if a foreign worker is leaving a job and going back to his home country, then before he leaves Singapore, he provides an IR21 form to you, tax clearance form. So what happens is, if the employee is living within a somewhere in between year, then IRAS does not know that the employee is going to leave the country, and they have not done any tax assessment for this employee. So there is a risk that this employee may go back to his home country And after going back home, next year IRAS will come to you asking for where is this employee as its tax is unpaid. So the procedure generally is as follows, that you withhold the last month's salary, ask the employee to go to IRAS, get the assessment done, pay the taxes, and get IR21 form. When that IR21 form is presented to you, you will release the last month's salary. So last month's salary in this case is kind of a security deposit with you, and this is a legal practice. There is nothing illegal about it. So ensure that these tax clearances for your foreign employees are done properly. So now I am going to handle two frequently asked questions on this matter. So the first question people sometimes ask is, do I need to have any employees, or can my company be without any employees? So the answer is, your company can be without any employees. It is not compulsory that you must have at least one employee or something like that. I have seen hundreds of companies who completely operate from overseas and they don't have any employee in Singapore. Obviously, if you do not have any employee, then this guide is not really relevant for you because you will not be carrying out any of these steps. The next question is, can I employ a person in foreign country to work for my Singapore entity? Is it allowed by Ministry of Manpower, and what to keep in mind in that circumstances? So yes, you can engage a person in foreign country to work for your Singapore entity. In that case, it does not really become an employer-employee relationship because you are not in same country, but it becomes more of an independent contract between two entities, one individual and another company. So you as a company registered in Singapore, you can enter into an agreement with somebody who is staying in foreign country that that person will do specific amount of work for you, for which you will pay a specifically agreed sum of money. So Ministry of Manpower has no issues with this, and this is not an illegal practice. The only thing that you need to keep it in mind, in that case, your contract should be clear enough to specify that it is a contractor-contractee relationship and not an employer-employee relationship. And you are paying a fee, service fee of whatever that amount is, and anything subsequently like taxes and provident funds and whatever else is the responsibility of that person who is receiving the payment. So in summary, these are the key points that you need to remember when recruiting employees for your organization.
Thank you for watching this video. This video was brought to you by Epica Consulting Singapore. Subscribe to our channel today to get notified when new videos are posted.